there were some strict rules that the cast of House of Dragons had to follow. The new Game of Thrones spin-off TV series is taking the world by a storm, with fans of the original show loving the return to Westeros. But there's more behind the scenes shocking revelations about the strict codes the cast were compelled to abide by that will only make your watching the experience all the better. Thank you for tuning in. Let's get into the video. On the verge of hitting the 4th and 5th episodes, we're set to meet older versions of both Rhaenyra Targaryen and Alison Hightower, but apparently the actors playing the different version of the Game of Thrones characters didn't even interact on set. Here's the method in their madness. The historical drama series takes the audience back to over 170 years before the events of the original show. It's a prequel that dissects the Targaryen clan and the civil war that erupts within the prominent family. Now the new series has attracted record-breaking viewing figures, and tensions are set to hit boiling point in further episodes as the dynamic between Rhaenyra and Alison change dramatically. In an interview with the original Game of Thrones podcast, House of the Dragon, Emily Carey, who plays a young version of Alicent, claimed that she and her co-star Millie Alcock didn't speak to the actors who play the older versions of their characters. She went on to explain that they have a very good reason for that. Emily Carey explained, "I had so much creative freedom in this role. In a sense, it's like we're playing two completely different characters. Me and Olivia didn't talk at all about the character or the job, in the same way Emma and Millie didn't. We were advised not to, because it was like we were playing completely different people." She went on to add, 10 years is a really long time, you know? You're seeing them go from practically children into grown women. There's a lot of growing up to do. So yeah, they treated us like different characters. It didn't feel like I was playing a younger version of a character that I'm so used to doing at this point. Maybe one day I will be main one and someone will be playing younger versions of me. It's a fascinating approach to developing the characters, and most are sure it will prove favorable. The young actors have done an incredible job already, and Olivia Cooke and Emily Darcy will inevitably continue that great work. To second that motion, the House of Dragon co-creator Ryan Condal admitted that the characters who are truly children are the only ones who will eventually swap actors. In HBO's Game of Thrones, the cast of teen characters like Arya Stark or Daenerys Targaryen were played by the same actor from the pilot to the finale. But for House of the Dragon, the co-creator Ryan Condal said a decision was made early on to have a set of 2 actors play any character who starts out in the show as a child. After all, how else better to cover several decades? During a roundtable interview with Insider ahead of the series premiere, Condal commented, "It's a conceit, but I think it does work. Having watched it a bunch of times, the people that are truly children in this are the ones that get recast, and the people that are already adults when we meet them, we age them up through hair and makeup, and sometimes the actors change their voice." Consider the first 2 episodes of House of Dragon. In just those 2 pieces, the audience has encountered 4 of these child characters being Rhaenyra Targaryen, Alison Hightower, and twins Laena and Laenor Velaryon. Around the halfway point of Season 1, the storyline is supposed to jump forward by 10 years. At that point, fans and newbies to the Game of Thrones Earth will see the same characters played by a whole new set of actors. Here's the 411 on the characters and actors we currently know about who will swap into adult versions later in the show. Number 1. Rhaenyra is played by Millie Alcock when she's 14 years old. That character will be portrayed by Emma Darcy in her late 20s. Number 2. Alison, who is played by Emily Carey when she's 14 years old, will be portrayed by Olivia Cooke, also in her late 20s. Number 3. Laena is played by Nova Follis-Moose, and when she's 12 years old, that role will be occupied by Nana Blondell, who is set to also be in her early 20s. Number 4. Laenor is played by Theo Tate when he's 12 years old, and by John Macmillan when hitting adulthood. The effect of this approach was rather clear in the newest episodes. King Viserys, who is played by 48-year-old Paddy Considine, has to choose a new wife and weighs his options between Laena and Alison. When speaking with young Laena, Viserys' uneasiness becomes clear as sunbeams. Viserys noticeably seems uncomfortable with how childlike she truly is. The naive girl even tells the king that her mother said she'd be able to wait to have sex until her 14th birthday and presumably start puberty, thus being able to reproduce and sustain life via pregnancy. In the end, Viserys selects Alison to be his new wife, but Alison, just a slightly older child, just 14 years old to be exact, 2 years older than Laena. Emily Carey's Alison is polite and better at easy conversations and flattery with the king, but she's also clearly uncomfortable with her father's request that she spend so much time alone with her best friend's father. She's constantly picking at her nails and cutting into her flesh around them when she's alone with him, clearly in an over-anxious and borderline traumatic state. Alison also seems particularly perturbed when she's asked to keep their little meetings a secret from Rhaenyra, Viserys' daughter and Alison's best friend. When King Viserys tells his small council and Rhaenyra that he plans to wed Alison, both girls have tears in their eyes. Though marriage at such a young age and with a significant age gap is common practice in the fictional Westerosi society drummed up by the author George R.R. Martin, House of the Dragon, is focusing on the damaging effects this practice has on the young girls who are preyed upon for their assumed ability to give birth to as many children as possible. And that also goes the same for as soon as possible. Despite Viserys calling his 14-year-old daughter a woman grown, Condell and the team have designed the episode to make it clear that neither Rhaenyra nor Alison feel prepared for the adult burden of marriage, childbirth, child rearing, and or ruling a kingdom. After all, they are still children themselves. Both of their mothers are dead, and their respective fathers do not truly support and love them as they should, or at least according to our standards of today's society. Here's other impressive cast members who tell the dramatic story. Paddy Considine plays King Viserys I Targaryen. King Viserys is the warm-hearted king of the Seven Kingdoms and inherited the Iron Throne from his grandfather, King Jaehaerys, whose 50-year reign was defined by peace and prosperity. The plot thickens as there is tension brewing around both Viserys' ascension to the throne and who his successor might be. It begins causing factions to emerge and could lead to a significant conflict. Fans are looking forward to seeing if King Viserys actually has what it takes to avoid a civil war within House Targaryen. Matt Smith plays Prince Daemon Targaryen. Prince Daemon is a younger brother of King Viserys, who is without a doubt extremely formidable on the battlefield, but he's only human and also has his weaknesses. He's held back by his impulsive and, at times, reckless behavior. Therefore, while he is technically the heir to the Iron Throne, as Viserys does not have a legitimate son, there is a strong feeling among many lords in Westeros that he should not be allowed to rule. As a matter of fact, he is often dubbed the Rogue Prince. Rhys Ifan plays Sir Otto Hightower. Sir Otto holds the powerful appointed role of the Hand of the King. If you would remember Game of Thrones, this means that serving as the closest advisor to Viserys and having authority to make decisions in his name is the onus of the person in this position. He has a strong dislike of the king's brother Daemon and aims to keep him out of power by any means necessary. Sir Otto is also willing to use his daughter Lady Alicent as a pawn in his schemes. Steve Toussaint plays Lord Corlys Velaryon. Lord Corlys is the leader of the powerful and wealthy House Velaryon, whose legendary seafaring has resulted in him known across Westeros as the Sea Snake. House Velaryon is as old as House Targaryen, and they have been joined in marriage through Corlys' union with the Princess Daenerys Targaryen. Lord Corlys is Lord of the Driftmark and the Master of Ships on the Small Council for King Viserys. He's a hero as a defender of Prince Daemon's right as heir, and someone willing to go to war for the sake of his house. There's lots of adventure to be had in House of Dragons. Make sure you tune in for more updates, Easter eggs, and behind-the-scenes secrets.